Are you looking for some quick and easy Halloween home decor? I'm going to show you how to use Powertex to make some of these adorable but a little spooky Halloween ghosts. We'll list all the supplies needed down below in the comments. Grab your Universal Medium in the color of your choice, make sure it's shaken and stirred, and then pour it into a plastic container. Then we're going to work on our base form that's going to be underneath the fabric. Now I'm just using things that I have around the studio. So I'm using a chip can, a styrofoam ball, some masking tape. But you could use a wine bottle or a quart jar, baby food jar, just depending on what size. Now you want to cover everything on your base form with plastic wrap. And that's why we're also using a plastic dispenser for our Universal Medium. Powertex does not like to stick to plastic, and so we want to protect our surface. Make sure that you also protect your work desk because this will stick to everything. So we've got that made, and now we have our fabric. I'm using an extra large doily that I got from a thrift store, and I'm just lightly misting it. You do not want this soaking wet, but you just want to soften the fibers a little bit. So I'm just kind of squishing that water in. Now, this is a cotton doily. It's going to soak up a lot of medium. So just consider that. Something like muslin or fabric won't absorb as much. But if you're using cotton, it's going to absorb quite a bit. And so you may have to add a little bit extra. You can always pour back any Universal Medium back into your container as long as you haven't contaminated it with clay or powder or pigments. So I'm just pressing my doily cloth into the container of Universal Medium and trying to make sure that everything is saturated. And I'm just giving some little squishes just to get the fibers to accept the medium and soak it into the fabric itself. You do not want your fabric to be dripping wet when you pull it out, but you do want to make sure that all of your fabric is well covered. So once you think you've got enough, keep squishing it. Just make sure it's not dripping. Open it up, look at it, see are there some areas that may need a little bit more, and if so, just add a little bit more medium to it. So here I'm just giving some little squishing motions just to make sure that these fibers are just completely absorbing this material and that it's fully saturated all the way through. So now I'm going to come back to my form, and I decided partway through that, you know what, my ghost needs some little arms. So I'm just taking some standard electrical wire that I had in the studio and twisting it around the can and creating these little arm shapes with little loops at the end. And after I tested my doily, I noticed it was really longer than my can. So I'm just propping it on a spool of wire that I had in the studio. So again, you could use anything that's in your studio that you could use just to give it the right height that you need. And I don't want the wires to stick out of the doily cloth because there's all those holes in the doily. So to keep the wire from poking through, I'm just wrapping a little bubble wrap around the little folded edges and then covering them with tape. And that's going to ensure that it doesn't stick out and poke or tear my doily cloth. So make sure that both little hands are wrapped and then just tape it on there to make sure that it is secure and well in place. You can just shape it however you need it. Make sure the height's there. Now we're going to take our draped doily and center it over the top and then just start draping. Now this doily is extra large, so it's super heavy. And when it gets wet, it's going to be even more heavier. So you just kind of have to finagle with it a little bit. You may need to use a stiffer wire. Or one thing that I found too is that if I let this start to dry, I can come back in an hour, 30 minutes to an hour as it starts to stiffen and just maneuver it a little bit. Just re-drape it however you want. Just make sure that you've got the shape that you want it to stay in. So it may take a little bit of finagling to get it in the right pose that you want. I also wanted to make sure that my little ghost could sit on a tabletop all by itself. So I want to flounce out the edges to create like a little skirt that'll lay flat on the table. So take your time with this part. You've got time before this starts to dry, and just get it in the shape that you want. Get it in the form that you want. Make sure that you look around, front, back, and all sides so that everything is how you want it to be. So I've set that one off to the side, and now I'm going to make some smaller little ghosts to be little friends. So here I've just used baby food jars as my base with a smaller styrofoam ball in one and a small balloon that I partially blowed up in another one. And again, you see that they are covered with plastic wrap and they are on a non-stick surface. I actually put them on a tray this time just to make transporting them over to my drying section a little bit easier on me. So that is something to consider too if you have that capability. These are just old bread pans that I have available in my studio that helps me stay organized. So again, I misted the fabric. I have one small doily cloth here that's crocheted, and then I have a second one that is made out of just cotton fabric with little lace doily edges on it. So again, just lightly mist them, dip it in, give a little squish, make sure they're fully saturated, and then drape it over your ball. See, these are much easier because they're a smaller form. But again, make sure that your little edges are flounced out because you want these to be able to sit all by themselves on your tabletop display wherever you're going to add these. So this is the fabric, and you can see it has little edges on it, but the inside being fabric doesn't absorb quite as much as you find that the cotton crochet doilies will. So here we're just going to again drape it over, and I knew about where the center was, so try to make sure that it's lined up, and then just again flounce your little edges and get it in the shape that you want. I like to go back also and just give a little pinch around the bottom of the head where the neck would be, just again to give it a little bit more character and shape. Now cut some eyeballs out of your felt, and we're going to apply this to our ghost just by adding a little bit of the Universal Medium to the felt and put it on there. It looks a little cloudy right now, but don't worry. The transparent will dry completely transparent. It just looks cloudy while it is wet. So once you have your eyes in place and it's shaped, it's time to let it dry. I let mine dry for a day. Now it's stiff, it's hard, so I can take it off the base and I can pull out the little can that I had, and you see that it comes out pretty easy. You may have to jiggle it just a little bit depending on how long you let it dry. I recommend you let these dry at least overnight. You could let it dry for the weekend. But see, this is solid, stiff. I'm so happy. This is just so adorable. But yet I have enough room to put a tea light underneath. And my little guys are just so cute. I gave one little angry eyes and the other one just little ghost eyes. Again, we're just going to slide that plastic wrap and our base form right out. Again, just give a little wiggle and pull it out. If some plastic sticks to it, just give it a little tug and get it to come out completely as you want. So this one, you can see the balloon came out right away, and now the plastic is just peeling out. If the Universal Medium created little windows in your doily, just use a little old toothbrush or a stiff paintbrush and just give them a little brush, and those little windows in the little holes will just come right out. But aren't these just adorable? I'm so excited about these. And then I took them home and I just put little tea lights underneath of them. Make sure that you use tea lights. Please don't use a real candle. And here's my final display. Absolutely adorable. So thanks for watching. I hope that you'll share what creations you make. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on our social media at Powertex USA.